Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jenny and you are in Turkey headquarters. So today I want to share with you guys the untold story of the Otokoto money ritual, which happened in Imo State, Nigeria in 19th September 1996. On Thursday, over 28 years ago, the 19th of September 1996, during the regime of General Sani Abacha, something happened in Nigeria that shocked the entire world. In the usual calm and beautiful city of Owerri, the capital of country's southeastern state of Imo, an 11-year-old boy named Ikuku was on his way, through the street of the city with his precious tray of granuts. This little boy is a hawker. He hawked granuts, boiled granuts, around Amakohia and Akwakoma area. This became his, daily routine. One unfaithful day, this little boy was, doing his normal hawking of selling granite, which a lot of people know as peanut, but this one is boiled peanut. When he got to Amakohia area of Owerri, a customer approached him. This customer's name was Innocent Ekanyaun. He was around 32 years during the period when this thing happened. The boy was called into the famous Otokoto Hotel, and the little granite seller was very, very excited. Since it was a hotel, it meant that the new customer would probably be buying, plenty granite, which will mean that he will make a lot of money and his parents will be proud of him and his parents will be happy, because he's just from a struggling family. During a lot of young children hawk in Nigeria just to assist their family. So when Ikechukwu got into the central lobby, the reception area of the hotel, he was very happy. His face was full with smiles. He was told to sit down and wait a bit. While waiting, the boy was treated like a guest. He was given a bottle of Coca-Cola, to cool off from the Nigerian heat. We all know how our Hamatan, our weather is a tropical African weather. So as every innocent boy of his age would react, he quickly took the bottle of Coke and drank it with happiness. For many Nigerian kids, drinking a bottle of Coca-Cola inside a big hotel lobby was more than a dream come true. So this really made little Ikechukwu to feel at home. He must have been wondering how nice his new and unusual receptive customer were. As he was, zipping his Coca-Cola drink, and he was equally, looking around, with all the glittering surrounding the hotel. You know how hotels looks now, especially their reception. Maybe he could have imagined having a hotel of his own too later in the future, or he was dreaming his vision, of becoming a wealthy man in future to make his parents proud. While he was doing so, in a matter of minutes, Ikechukwu dozed off, never to wake up again. His granite tray was lying in a corner. Observing the boy from a safe distance was the man who had called him to buy his granite. he had put something on Ikechukwu's Coca-Cola. And once he saw that, little Ikechukwu was sleeping, he took Ikechukwu's body, like he carried him inside one of the hotel room, and what follows next remains one of the most evil things anyone can dream of. He used a very sharp cutlass to, I don't know, I just feel so sad right now. He just used it to cut him into pieces. He was beheaded in a matter of minutes. People were just, passing through those by the side of the hotel. They don't know what is happening. People had no idea of what was going on inside this high and mighty, beautiful, a known well hotel, Otokoto Hotel. Nobody knows that this kind of thing was going on there. After Ikechukwu's head was beheaded, other parts of his body was butchered and was separated. They packed the ones they will pack, and this same man called Mr. Kĩļliñg packed Ikechukwu's head inside a polythene bag and made a shallow grave where he hurriedly buried the other of his body that they don't need. Of course, Ikechukwu's parents, were somewhere in the city. They had no idea that their little boy had just been murdered. Mr. Kĩļliñg, the wicked man, I think that's what I'll call him. He then took the polythene bag containing the head and headed for the next destination. Guess where? To the house of the man who needed the fresh head. My viewers, Otokoto Hotel, at the time of its existence, because right now they have turned it to, I think, a police station. Otokoto Hotel was located in an upscale area of Owerri, precisely Amakohia side. It was a very favorite location for the rich and wealthy youths to meet, drink, have all manner of fun. Otokoto Hotel was made up of 3 buildings, 3, 5, and 6 stories each, one behind the other. It was owned by Chief Vincent Duru. Chief Vincent Duru is the father of Obidiozo Duru. Obidiozo is the leader of the Black Scorpions Secret Court. They are responsible for, robbing people, kidnapping of children in Imo State that time. All of Owerri placed the Durus under their radar. There were already rumors all over the place about, their activities. It's not really making sense to a lot of residents of Owerri that knows them. Let me give you guys a background story. Before this horrible incident, the people of Owerri, the people of Ndi Owerri, the Alowere people were already very mad at the actions of some loud, extremely powerful, and wealthy individuals in Owerri that time. These people were highly connected and they oppressed everyone. Like, you dare not step on their toes. You dare not have issues with them. You are gone. Rumors were all over the place as to their very dark dealings. Even the possibility of ritual murders and killing. But no one really had any hard evidence yet. Or probably those who had it were very scared of saying anything because of their life. Whatever the case may be, these rich people who had no really tangible or easily traceable source of wealth, they kept on living large, like causing fear on people living in Owerri. They were doing too much. It's not really as if there is this particular business that people know them of that is giving them all this money. My viewers, this was how Owerri was described at that time. These people has like luxurious commodities, also became available in Owerri during the early 1990s, mostly through a set of exclusive shops. These shops are owned by these particular members of this particular class of people, or these ritualists. Beside the arrival of airplanes in Owerri skies for the first time since federalist bombing attacks, during the 1990s, the highest car you will see that time was, I think they said, Peugeot 504 for taxis. That's what you'll be seeing in the street of Owerri. Then before these men came in and started, building big mansion. This big mansion will contain big generators that are very, very expensive. They started putting satellite dishes, bringing luxurious things. A lot of things were happening, movie programming. A lot was happening that time in Owerri. By then, in 1996, Ndi Owerri could indeed see what they had been missing before airport prosperity. But let me take you back to our gist. When people heard of what had happened inside the hotel to Ikuku, Owerri exploded with anger and resentment that had been, this thing that had been piling up for years. For 2 straight days in Imo State, Owerri precisely, the people of Owerri trooped out in their thousands, protesting, rioting. Not even the strong army, because that time Imo State was under military administrator. He could not stop them. He could not. Even what did they call the administration of the former military governor, his name was Navy Captain James Aneke. He was already seen as corrupt that time. He was seen as a 419 beast, and even Otokoto them was hiding under the protection of his men while he was in office that time. So they simply ran. And what really broke the heart of people was that this Ikuku was a very innocent boy that was only helping his family, that was only contributing to the betterment of his family, even as young as he was. So that time, any property suspected to belong to the Otokoto men were set ablaze. From this hotel they called posh hotels, to luxury supermarkets, to their flashy cars, their mansions, everything was destroyed and burnt to the ground. The riot was trending all over the world, not even only in Nigeria. The thing really shook the world. Any suspected member of the Otokoto gang that time, people would just beat them. Some of them, they burnt them. This Otokoto youth, they have like gang members. They have secret court members. When you go to some universities that time, secret court was too much. So that time, they have a lot of those secret court guys that normally help them to kidnap young children, that normally help them to kill young children and all of that. The thing was so tough in a way. So when this was happening, there was tears everywhere. People were crying. Because a lot of people have been looking for their family members, but they never know how they went. You need to see heads of people, hands, leg, inside some of the houses of these Otokoto members. Let me continue the story. After the murder of little Ikechukwu by Mr. Innocent Ekanyang, he left the hotel to deliver the head where it was needed. It was the motorcycle operator named Mr. Opara who took him to his destination in Eziama, who realized that was his passenger was carrying inside the floating bag was actually a fresh human head. It was still dripping with blood. When he alerted, the motorcyclist alerted the police, who then intercepted Eke Anyanwu on his way back in a Peugeot 504 car. He was carrying the head with him in the polythene bag. With the motorcycle he took earlier, he was going to the residence of a highly influential figure named Chief Leonard Ogu at Eziama. Eziama is in Ikedu local government area of Imo State. He was going with the head, but upon arrival, he was told that Chief Leonard had gone to Lagos. So he had no choice, but to return to Owerri with the boy's head. When it was time to take the headless body of Ikechukwu to the local mortuary, Owerri residents trooped out of their homes. It was a massive procession and they protested all the way. They stayed around and within the hotel premises and waited for the police to confirm that it was indeed a ritual murder. Some other Owerri residents kept watch in front of the Federal Medical Center. That time it was called called Medical Center, watching everything and also waiting for the confirmation of a ritual murder from either the morgue or the police. But the notice was to eventually come from the Imo State television station. They called them IBC then. Suspicion was already thick in the area and on the air, and anyone could smell the tension. It was Owerri people versus some of the most devilish forms of humanity in their midst. It was in this midst of this tension that the local media station made its miscalculation. They showed the image of innocent Ekanyanwu holding the head of his victim. The goal of the media was to assure the people, because of the public fear. They asked the public to help identify the boy and show official transparency, But what followed next was something they never imagined could happen. All hell broke loose as the people of Owerri went highway after they saw that image. They saw that image being broadcast first on the 24th of September. Remember, all these things started on the 19th of September. My people, everybody was angry. I was still in primary school then when this thing was happening. All Owerri residents abandoned their businesses, and hey, you need to see what was happening in town that day. It was as if the world will end that day. It was there the Owerri people decided on the next plan of action, and they outlined their strategies to deal with the Otokoto headhunters. The news spread rapidly, and before long, every home in Owerri had either of the news or seen the image of little Ikechukwu Okonkwo's head, or his shallow grave, where they buried some part of his body. Some youth that was unemployed took over the parks, issued threats to Owerri millionaires. From the Owerri main market, the riot started from the Owerri main market. The pattern of destruction was neat. The crowd first went to the morgue, and from there they rushed to the Otokoto Hotel and they burnt it to the ground. They make sure nobody picked a pin from there. They burn it from you see what they normally tell people, from head to toe, like they burnt it to the ground. From there they went to the nearby mansion of the owner of Otokoto Hotel, Chief Vincent Duru. They destroyed his property. His expensive car were destroyed that no mechanic can repair it. And Otokoto himself, Chief Vincent Duru, he narrowly escaped from there. The crowd split into attack groups and spread out to other sides of the privileged elite. They went for maximum destruction. The well-known Piano Plaza and Stories, alongside another hotel. They call it Chibet Hotel, and various businesses that was linked to Otokoto and his associates were destroyed. When I mean destroyed, they destroy it. Later, the government confiscated all the properties, and the panel was headed by, I think, Justice P.C. Onumajuru. From there, the crowd rushed to the place of the traditional ruler and chairman of the State Council of Traditional Ruler. His name was then Eze Onu-Egwu-Nwoke. Eze Onu-Egwu-Nwoke, alongside Aneke, this man called Aneke. Their houses was burned down, his residence and his petrol station. They also destroyed the king's 15 air condition and many of his cars. Mind you, during that time, this Eze Onu-Egwu-Nwoke was living very close to our house. We used to live in Akwakoma then. Let me continue this gist. 15 air condition and many of his cars was destroyed. They were not done yet too. From there, the crowd headed for the residence of former Imo State officials. Everyone that was in power that time. These administrators was targeted because of what was described as their alleged unwillingness to properly tackle several cases of ritual murder, the kidnapping and robbery while in office. There was a lot of robbery, kidnapping, murder during their administration, but they never did something. They were always sweeping it under the carpet because the people that are always being mentioned were kind of friend or family friends to them. So that was why people targeted, went to them and destroyed a lot of their investments and their belongings. Then, following the arrest of Mr. Ekanyanwu, he was remanded in police custody while waiting trial. But while he was in police custody, magic happened as usual. He was killed by food poisoning. You know what that means. They don't want him to talk much, but that did not stop justice. That did not stop little boy Ikuku from getting justice. He killed the boy on Thursday, and Sunday morning, the 22nd of September, he was found dead in police custody, and by Monday morning, the news of his death was already spreading throughout Owerri. But luckily for the interrogators, before he was killed, Ekanyanwu confessed and mentioned Leonard Onaogo, the chief Mr. Leonard, the one from Eziama, as the brain behind the Rïțüal Kĩļliñg syndicate. He confessed that the Ritual Killing Ring was a well-organized machine that specialized in the harvesting of human body parts and sold them to those interested in using them for rituals and all the usual nonsense they claimed to be using them for. He was also said it was Mr. Leonard who ordered him to get a human head. Some reports indicate that Otokoto saga, as the Ritual Kĩļliñg came to be known, had been in place as far back as 1976. Confessional statement also shows that no one was spared at the Otokoto Hotel. Innocent guests and unsuspecting travelers who lodged at the hotel were drugged or attacked in the middle of their sleep and hacked to death, after which they were cut into pieces for sale. Oh my God. You need to see Owerri that time. Police officers who swept upon the hotel discovered not only the shallow grave containing that of the little boy, but also graves, a lot of graves, containing other victims, with their decomposing, dismembered corpses. No one knows the exact number of bodies exhumed at Otokoto Hotel, with figures varying from 8 to 2 dozen. Some were buried as inconspicuous, like the location where they buried them. They planted flower on them. Some of them, they planted like vegetables so that you won't notice that it's a grave. This is evil, and it's really, really heartbreaking. The man that Ekanyanwu mentioned before he was poisoned to death, Mr. Leonard, was known in the society as a business tycoon. Everyone knew him, but that was not all. His junior brother, Lars, was a serving minister under the General Abacha regime. The brother of a serving federal ministry was implicated in the beheading of a poor boy. It was a classic case of the rich against the oppressed and the poor Nigerian majority. Mr. Leonard, or rather some people call him Chief Leonard, was eventually arrested by the police when Otokoto, Vincent Tuduru, claimed that police officers had told him that the late Ekanyanwu had confessed that Chief Leonard commissioned the killing. He was arrested and made to face the Judicial Commission. They call them the Judicial Commission of Inquiry, and they eventually held him in prison, charged him with murder. It seemed the government really wanted the culprit, or at least someone, punished because of the people of Owerri. We are very ready. When I mean ready, people were ready to bounce on anyone should they be released to go free. People were monitoring the case. But the people of Owerri made their voices heard. That was the most beautiful thing about this case. They pursued the case till the very end. In fact, the Otokoto case can be seen as the case of the Owerri people versus the Otokoto 7, as the first because the 7 principal suspects were caught. They were 7 in number. The police arrested Chief Leonard, and when he was questioned, he lied with a straight face that he never knew anyone called Innocent Ekanyanwu, and that he was not even in Owerri when the crime was committed, saying he was in Lagos. He would later say the same thing in court, only for the presiding judge to brush it aside as nonsense. I love that judge. Saying his location when the offense was committed was irrelevant to the matter at hand. Innocent Ekanyanwu, who murdered the boy, was aged 32 and he worked as a gardener inside the Otokoto Hotel. When he died of food poisoning, the Imo State Police Commissioner released a press statement with the speed of light, saying the police knew nothing about it, saying there was no foul play. This irresponsible talk from the police chief enraged the Owerri youth, who promptly returned to streets demanding justice for Ikechukwu Okonkwo. This time around, they were determined more than ever to find their own evidence of ritual murder. They invaded the homes of suspected dealers in human body parts. Like, they made sure they had evidence, which they reportedly found in one of the houses. The churches were not spared too, especially. There is this new evangelical church with their main target being overcomers. This overcomers church there is one close to Otokoto Hotel and there is one in Owerri. So the overcomers Christian mission, the one along Weather, where it was rumored that human skulls were discovered with charms and some other things, but the police later said that what was found there were various animal skulls, pots full of vulture and the feathers, chalk, red candles, book of mystical subjects, some nonsense photograph, cowries, objects shaped like human beings, and some bottle containing unspecified like powder and all those orishirishi verbal preparations. But Owerri youth really tried. They were really happy, being being energized by their success at this discovery. The people protesting march on other churches. This thing lead to a lot of things. They march to other churches, all those popular churches with the millionaires of Owerri were attacked and destroyed. Only Winners Chapel narrowly escaped as it has been surrounded by battle-ready police officers. By the time the storm calmed on the 27th of September, 26 buildings and several cars had been destroyed. It was like, you need to see how Owerri was looking that time. But what I love about this case was all the Otokoto suspects, they remained they were put in prison, in the Owerri Federal Prison during their trial. This story really break a lot of people, and this story really exposed a lot of people. What happened in Owerri that time had never happened anywhere in Nigeria in the history of people or indigenes protesting, because Owerri people really took it serious. They don't mind, they don't care who was involved. What they want was justice for Ikechukwu. At the end of the day, this justice that little boy Ikechukwu, the groundnut seller, got, the justice he got was all about people of Owerri. They did it for him. And wherever Ikechukwu is, I believe that his soul will be resting in perfect peace. This crisis was really between Owerri indigenes, Owerri people, versus the 7 Otokoto men. This story will always remain fresh to the people of Owerri, especially people that were still in Owerri when these things happened. The last time I went to Imo State, I passed Amakohia, and any time since this incident, even when I was going to secondary school, Anytime I pass that Otokoto Hotel, which they have turned to police station, my mind really, what comes to my mind is Ikuku. You see the street now that leads from that former Otokoto Hotel down to inside the other part of Amakohia is now named Ikechukwu Okonkwo Avenue. If you go to Amakohia today, you will see that street. The street of that Otokoto Hotel was now named after Ikechukwu Okonkwo. Is now named Ikechukwu Okonkwo Avenue. May Ikechukwu Okonkwo's soul and all the souls of people that died during that time, all the people that died in Rïțüal Kĩļliñg, and all the souls of the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, continue to rest in peace. Thank you so much for watching. This is the end of this story, and is a story that will forever bring tears to a lot of people's hearts. And yeah, I don't know if you've heard about this story. I decided to do this story today because I've been longing to do it, but each time I want to talk about it, I really feel so sad because I was living in Owerri. I was born in Owerri. I was living in Owerri when this incident happened. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.